Record. Well, here we go. We're recording and we're live on both Instagram and Facebook. Hi, everyone. I hope you had an amazing weekend. Happy Monday. So, for those who are new, my name is Stacy, and I am a nonprofit consultant helping small to mid-sized nonprofits grow their impact and revenue generation potential through strategic planning and capacity building. So, if that's you and you're looking to get a head start, definitely check out my stand store to see if there are any services or products we can help you with. If not, reach out to me and, so we can figure out where you are and what you need. Today, the topic is your nonprofit needs a CEO and not a martyr. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means because one thing I'm going to tell you, self-sacrifice is not going to pay the bills. Leadership is going to do that. So it's time that you start looking at the bigger picture and stop relying on your ability to sacrifice yourself and burn out as the solution and really think a little bit bigger. And that's what we're going to discuss today as to why a lot of nonprofit leaders break down and essentially get tired of the whole nonprofit industry because it's a lot of work. And if you're not strategic about the work that you're doing, it's going to burn you out because you're going to end up working like 16-hour days where nobody wants to do that and doing everything yourself. So let's keep about what's keeping your nonprofit in the situation it is, the financial situation it is, right? Exhausted and being stuck. And we're going to talk about the different things that lead to that. And I'm going to address why you may think that because your nonprofit is all about serving others, you have to suffer to prove that you care, which is in itself the most insane thing I've ever heard. That's called martyrdom. Okay, you have to come to a place where, as the leader, you are exhibiting leadership and not trying to be a martyr because of your nonprofit's mission, right? It's one of the biggest reasons a lot of nonprofits are not able to grow, right? You're constantly putting out fires, saying yes to everything because you don't want to feel bad, and you're running yourself into the ground as a result because you're operating in a way that's not sustainable, in a way that doesn't lead to securing more funding, retaining stronger team members, and having a lasting impact with your nonprofit organization. So let's break down why this mindset is essentially going to destroy your organization because what real leadership looks like, it's not that. Okay. I want you to finally step into your CEO role as to what your nonprofit needs to be able to accomplish its mission and do the work that it's supposed to be doing. Okay. So if that's you, you're ready to do that and you already know what work that needs to be done, I'm inviting you to book a strategy session with me today. Um, that's the best way to start working with me. It's a 90-minute session where we create an action plan that you can put into you can start implementing in your nonprofit organization to reach its goals. The link is going to be in my stand store. So if you click on my stand store, you will definitely get the link for that. Now, let's get into the topic, why martyrdom. Like we think about kingdom, right? This is definitely not it. Martyrdom is going to slowly unalive your nonprofit. Okay. Let's get something straight. Like right now, like nonprofit work is about service, not sacrifice. And if you are constantly putting yourself in a situation where you're burning yourself out and you're doing everything yourself, you're not working smart, you're not being strategic, then you're sacrificing a lot of your energy and a lot of yourself to accomplish the mission, right? And another thing, let's say you weren't the founder of this nonprofit organization and you were hired as the executive director. You're doing everything yourself because the board told you to write grants. That wasn't in your job description. Why are you putting too much on your plate? That's not your responsibility. Are there solutions? Are there smarter ways? Are there strategic ways that you can do this job without burning yourself out? Because if the nonprofit leaders are burnt out, it leaves little to no room for you to actually grow. Because one thing's for sure is studies show that 50% of nonprofits, right, they report feeling completely burnt out. I want you to keep that in mind. Like, if nonprofits are coming and saying they're burnt out, there is a reason. It's because they do too much, right? They're doing the work that should be done by local governments for community members that are not being done and burning themselves out in the process. Okay, so local government or community members are not doing the work and the nonprofits step in. That doesn't mean you have to burn yourself out. How can you do the work that's supposed to be done in a way that's smart, where the impact is sustainable? Like, you're making, like, I'm going to use that word, a lasting impact. I'm using that again. Like, it's not a one and done, right? Like, I'm not sure if I know some artists are one hit wonders, right? You don't want the work your nonprofit is doing to be a one hit wonder where it's just this generation that's going to benefit from it and other generations will not. Because then only 30% of nonprofits actually have a succession plan, which means that most organizations are entirely dependent, hey Owen, dependent on one overworked leader who holds everything together. So if you're only dependent on one leader to hold everything together, what's happening is that your nonprofit, when that leader decides they've had enough, they can't do it anymore, they can't hold it together anymore, the whole organization crumbles. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to keep in mind. Like, you should not be sacrificing yourself and the work by the work that you're doing, because if you feel like you're doing too much, chances are yes you are. But how can you be strategic about it where you are delegating some of this work so somebody can assist you? Is it creating, like, there's a name for it, I used it the other day. Are crowdfunding campaigns? Are you running crowdfunding campaigns and tapping into your network to get people to help you fundraise? What are you doing? Are you making sure that you create a social media marketing plan to ensure people are learning and trusting your nonprofit? Because that's the other thing. A lot of nonprofits don't have the trust factor, but they think a lot of people are going to want to donate. I don't know you from a can of paint. Why would I want to donate to your organization, right? So, but nonprofits where the founder or executive director feels overwhelmed and overworked, they struggle to retain staff. They experience 70% higher turnover rates. And there's a reason. Because think about, if the leadership does not have time to invest in their own skills and their own leadership skills, what's happening is that these founders, executive directors become unable to pour into the staff that is working with them, and the staff doesn't feel like they're appreciated. They just want to go. Okay, that's the other thing I want you to think about. Like, you have to keep treating your nonprofit like your if you have to keep treating your nonprofit organization like it's your personal responsibility instead of an organization that needs structure, what happens is you'll never have the stability or growth that you want because you're treating it like a pet project. Okay, so what's happening is nobody's ever going to want to work with you because you're not doing the job. Okay, your job as a leader is not to do everything, it's to build a team and a system and strategy that works even when you're not there. Because then, if while you're there, all you're worried about, okay, we need to get donations, we need to submit these, or we need to reach out to this person, but this person again does not know you, your team members, like all you're telling them is to do what you're doing, and you don't really have a structure or system in place, everybody's going to be burnt out, everybody's going to be tired. This staff, this team is going to end up leaving your organization because there's no structure in place. And one of the biggest leadership mistakes, I'm going to talk about a few that's holding you back, is the first one is doing everything yourself. I know it feels easier to handle everything on your own. Like, I will tell you, that is one of my flaws. I can speak to that, is doing everything yourself because you think you can do it better, right? You think it's easier to handle on your own, but what happens is that you burn yourself out, because the one thing that you usually tell yourself, if you function that way, I'll do it faster if I do it myself, right? I can't afford to hire help. No one will care about this as much as I do, so I'm going to end up doing it. But the problem here is your nonprofit is not designed to run on your exhaustion. Because then when you are too tired to do some of the tasks, what occurs is that it starts showing. It starts, like, the seams, like tend to rip apart and people start seeing these flaws, these imperfections. Now, high performing nonprofit organizations have at least five key leadership roles filled. That's operations, fundraising, marketing, programs, and finance. There's a reason because a leader is not supposed to do everything. You're supposed to find a way to fill these roles because you can't do it all by yourself. There's some leaders that are trying to manage everything because they want to have control of it. But when you're forcing control, what happens is everything starts to fall apart because you can be doing operations, fundraising, marketing, programs, and finances all on one person. It's way too much. That's not leadership. It's called like falling in water that you can't even swim out of. You're literally drowning when that happens. So a solution for this first mistake, doing everything yourself, you need to start thinking about how you're going to hire staff or a team to do that work, how you're going to delegate, how you're going to automate. Now, you can start by outsourcing some of the admin work, right? And start looking how you can outsource social media and how you can automate donor follow-ups, okay? Or even outsource that because you need to free yourself from the tasks that keep you busy but are not going to move the needle. Now, one thing in business is if you're not making a profit or if you're not making any revenue, then you don't have a business, you have a nonprofit. It's my same concept for nonprofits. If you're not making revenue, if you're not generating revenue, then you're not making an impact because you need that revenue to be able to do the work that you're doing because you can't do it yourself. If you're the only person working in the nonprofit, then you don't have a nonprofit organization, you have a hobby, and you need to dissolve that nonprofit and just do the work with another nonprofit that can handle it. So as a nonprofit, I strongly believe, and I will go on that hill and shout it on the rooftop, you need to generate revenue in your nonprofit organization if you are trying to grow and leave a lasting impact. Okay. Now, the second mistake I see with leaders, nonprofit leaders, is making emotional decisions instead of strategic ones, right? Now, I will say this one, a lot of people may think, oh, I'm not being emotional, I'm making a strategic decision. No, you're making a decision that you would make for your personal life. You're not making a strategic decision based on the nonprofit itself because too many nonprofit leaders are making decisions based on fear instead of strategy. You don't charge for services because you don't want people to turn away. You don't want to turn people away. Is that strategic or is that out of fear? Okay, I want you to ask yourself that. Or you're avoiding fundraising training because you hate asking for money. I don't care what you hate. You need to get like familiar with fundraising because if you're not fundraising, then you're not doing your job. Or you're refusing to invest and help because you're barely making it. Now, one thing about refusing to invest and help because you can't even make it yourself, what happens is the same cycle continues. You stay in the same place. It's like, I want to get up right now and turn around in circles. It's like, oh, okay, I can't afford help with this admin task. So I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it. Oh my God, I need money again. I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep, oh, admin task. So you find yourself in the same cycle because you go left, right, left, right. You keep turning around in circles trying to do the same thing and keep telling yourself you can't afford help, but you can never actually get to the position where you can bring in money because you're too busy doing the work that you said you were too busy to hire. You didn't have enough money to hire somebody for. So you're gonna stay stuck in the cycle because you're not thinking strategically. If I can find someone to do this, then I can focus on doing this. And this is going to be what I'm focusing on, and I'm going to excel at it because at the end of the day, or at the end of 3 months, I need to bring in $20,000 for this nonprofit organization. I'm going to make my return. I'm going to have an ROI on investing in this because this admin task is taking so much of my time. I can't focus on what I need to do, which is raising funds for the organization. So you don't need to wonder why your nonprofit isn't generating sustainable revenue. It's because you're too busy doing like work you shouldn't be doing. So when nonprofits are able to set clear financial goals, measure their impact, right? They can raise 3 times more funding than those that don't. So I need you to stop making emotional decisions just because of fear, okay? and start using data, track your funding pipeline, set revenue goals for yourself, and make choices that position your nonprofit for growth and not survival. So, our nonprofit to be able to have 10% growth, we need this much money. But how are you going to get that? Did you even ever put that on paper? Did you ever track that? That's why I have strategy sessions to help nonprofit organizations determine what they need to focus on, what goals they have, so they can focus on it and move forward. Because in the strategy sessions that I offer, they're not playing. It's 90 minutes, right? 90 minutes, we talk about exactly what you need, where you need to move towards, and we get to work. Okay? So I need you to stop making emotional decisions because of your own personal fears and start using data and start thinking like a leader. Okay? Now, the third mistake, I want you to start working in your nonprofit instead of on it. Start working in your nonprofit instead of on it. So if you spend your entire day answering emails, coordinating volunteers, writing grants, putting out fires, you're working in your nonprofit and not on it. That is a mistake that nonprofit leaders do. You're working in your nonprofit and not on it. As a leader, you're supposed to be working on it because you're working to make sure the nonprofit is able to grow. So you need to work on the nonprofit. The work that you're doing is work you should be delegating. So you shouldn't be working in it only. Because at the beginning, like, yes, you need to set up systems so you stop working in it. Just like business owners, we can't always work in our businesses. We need to work on it so we can determine how it's going to grow. And that's why a lot of leaders are stuck. They're working in their nonprofit instead of working on it. Okay? Leaders that actually spend at least 30% of their time on strategy and revenue building can actually see 50% higher long-term funding stability. And source, that's a Stanford Social Innovation Review. So imagine if you spent 30% of your time. I don't care how you break it down. Now, let's say you work 5 days a week. You take 2 of those days to focus on strategy and revenue building. You can actually see higher long-term funding stability because you actually take days where you focus on these things. So one thing you can do, or a solution, you can block out time for strategic planning. If you don't have at least 1 day per week dedicated to big picture thinking, funding strategy, and leadership developing, you're not just maintaining the organization, you're not growing. Okay, and that's a big issue that nonprofits may be experiencing. So that's why I say, like, if you don't know what to do in the next 3 to 6 months to move your nonprofit forward, definitely book a strategy session with me so we can map out a leadership growth plan or your nonprofit's growth plan. Because then you'll get a action plan PDF and the recording, and you and your team can get to work. Now, the shift I want you to make as a CEO, I want you to if you're serious about the growth of the organization, I want you to shift from being a doer to being a leader because you can't do both. Because a leader will focus on these things that I mentioned, right? A leader will actually work on the structure of the organization and delegate so the organization can actually grow. If you're just focusing on being a doer, then you're just running around in circles, right? So step one, I want you to start developing a leadership mindset because your time is the most valuable resource that you have as a nonprofit leader. So I want you to protect it. Prioritize strategy over doing busy work. Stop taking on every task just because you can. Again, stop taking on every task just because you can. If they're saying, oh, I need someone to come manage the volunteers today, nobody's there, just because you can doesn't mean you have to go there. Protect your time. Because if you can't find someone that can do it, then you have a huge problem. You need to identify how to fill these gaps. Step two, I want you to start building a real leadership team. Even if you can't hire a full team, you have to start delegating. So you need to start bringing in skilled board members. You need to partner with interns, invest in consultants who can fill key roles, because consultants will actually fill in the gaps of what you need. And that's why I tell like mid-sized, small to mid-sized nonprofits, if you need a consultant to help with strategy because you don't have anybody in that, or you don't have a development director, definitely you can hire me on retainer. I can help you with that. Because then there's a reason I say invest in consultants to fill in key roles, because at the time they're not a full-time staff, they're not part of your staff, but they can fill in key roles that you have a gap for, that you need to fill, that you don't have the time for. And skilled board members, it's really important, because oftentimes you find yourself bringing in board members that are not actually doing the work, and that's because you're not leading them. You like bringing in skilled board members is definitely an important part. If you cannot get skilled board members, that does not mean you do everything yourself. Find someone that can do the work. Either invest in a consultant short term, or hire out a contractor to do some of the work, right? Because then when you're doing everything yourself, you never really have time to build a strategy, a growth strategy, or have an operational plan that you can start implementing so your organization can start seeing the growth that it actually needs to see. Now, step 3 to start leading like a CEO that I'm going to talk about is setting up sustainable funding systems. I want your nonprofit, I want you to start being more CEO minded and focus on long-term sustainability. And what that means is start thinking systems that can bring sustainability, such as monthly donor programs, earn income, such as workshops, training, and services, right? Corporate partnership to secure consistent funding. Speaking of corporate partnerships, if you're not sure whether or not your organization is ready for corporate partnerships, I developed a free assessment, a free guide for you to determine whether you're ready for corporate partnerships and sponsorships. I'm going to put the link, let me find it. I'm going to put the link in the comments. It's a free guide, it's a free 11-page guide, and I'm going to drop that in the comments for you as soon as I find it. Okay. Give me one. Let me type that in. If you are on Instagram or watching anything else, that should be on my Stand Store as well. Is the sponsorship and partnership guide. Okay, so download the free copy. I'm going to type it in because my brain is not working. To determine if you are ready for a sponsorship and partnership. Okay, putting that in the comments on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook, definitely check the link in the comments, because nonprofits that are able to diversify their revenue streams are actually 60% more financially stable. So check your readiness score. There's an assessment there. I want you to download that free PDF and start looking into if you are ready for that. And then there are a few suggestions on there on how you can get ready. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, overworked, underfunded. That is a leadership problem. And I want you to realize that you can fix that, because that's not a funding problem. That's a problem you need to fix within yourself as the CEO, executive director, as the leader of your organization. A lot successful nonprofits are not ran by burnt out leaders. They're actually run by CEO-minded visionaries who actually invest in strategy, in sustainability. Because as a leader, if you don't know where the organization is going, not going nowhere. Okay, so I want you to start investing in strategy and sustainability. Stop doing everything yourself. Okay, hire, delegate, automate. Start leading with strategy, not emotion. Okay, track your numbers and set real goals. Because when you set goals and you actually start working towards them, they're more likely to become a reality, because you set them and you have a plan that you're trying to put in place. And I want you to work on your nonprofit, not just in it. So, okay, so focus on revenue, partnerships, and impact. Oh, it's raining. And if you're ready to finally step into your CEO role, I want you to reach out to me, because it's time for us to build a leadership and funding strategy together. Book your strategy session today. I'm going to put the link in the comments. Because at the end, that's what it's about. You want to make sure your organization is sustainable and not just there to do work that is not going to exist in a few years, right? So you want to build a sustainable nonprofit organization. You want to lead a sustainable nonprofit organization because you're doing your community a disservice when your nonprofit is only there to serve one part of the generation, and then in 5 years you disappear because your nonprofit can no longer do the work. So definitely start looking into making these changes as a leader so you can, let me see, book a strategy session. So you can start seeing real change, okay? So I really appreciate the time. I am going to put the strategy session link also in the comments on Facebook, on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you're watching. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. If you're watching part of this on TikTok, definitely check my stand store to see how I can help you and your organization move forward. But that's it for today. And it's raining cats and dogs. The day started so well. I don't know what's going on today. But anyways, y'all have a wonderful Monday. And yeah, thank you for catching me. Bye.